Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name is Brian, and in this video, it's kind of like a double whammy here. I'm going to try and do a channel update, kind of, along with introducing some new stuff later on. So for those folks who are there for that new stuff, stick around because I just have to get some stuff out of the way first. So um, our channel has mostly done just Warmachine and A Song of Ice and Fire content for almost the beginning. I think their 140 video snuck its way in there, but that was just a small experiment. So for um, those who pay attention, I haven't been really doing much in terms of Warmachine or Ice and Fire more so. And that's not because I'm like on my way out from any of these games or anything. You know, like the Warmachine stuff, we just had the Minnesota um, recap of the tournament that I did where I played Crucible Guard against some of those folks out there. And Ethan and I just recorded, I think, the night before last, his recap of the Riverfront Rumble. So that's like an hour and a half of editing that I have to go through, but that's definitely coming. So more Warmachine content there at least. But in general, like with the way the update's kind of rolling out for Warmachine, this big dynamic update or whatever they want to call it, essentially for the next month, Warmachine exists in a world that isn't, or the way Warmachine exists now is not going to be the way it exists at the end of October. And that just means I'm pretty much disconnected from the game. I only like to play, you know, the most current iterations of it. So if the game's in some kind of transition, I really don't care to go out and play my broken Archons and Gaspies all over the place. You know, it's just not something that brings me joy or anything like that. So for the most part, any kind of content creation for Warmachine is kind of something that doesn't really excite me. And so it's going to be down for the next month or so until this update finally hits. For Ice and Fire stuff, I'm super excited to try and talk about some of the new releases that are coming out eventually. I mean, I know people are getting them through other methods, and that's cool. But for me, I do like to try and get mine somewhat locally. And until they get in my hands, I really don't like to talk about them a whole lot unless there's some other kind of real special reason to do so, like someone wants to get together and chat about them. But you know, I still really like the game. With the you know the Madison area of Wisconsin being very pandemic conscious, just trying to get games with people has been a little tough. You know, I already live rural or in a rural location, so having to go to the bigger cities to try and play Ice and Fire is a little tough because first I have to find the time to get there and then drive back, but then also find someone who's interested and committed to playing that game in a you know in a store that's you know either sometimes they're packed, sometimes they're slow. It's just wonky. So I don't really have like the local backbone to kind of support my interest in Ice and Fire right now. So that's been kind of on the, you know, that kind of explains the drop in content there. But you know, between the move, you know, I just bought a house not too long ago, and we've got a puppy that was very, very sick when we first got him, and has just kind of been really chaotic. So lots of things have really kind of pulled um, my almost creative excitement, so to speak. My creative fuel is kind of dripping down. You know, I didn't even want to do a whole lot of painting or anything like that. You know, it was just kind of building because it was going through the motions, so to speak. But now I'm extremely excited about a certain game, and it's been a game that you know, it was on my radar for a good long time. I think in 2019 was when I might have first started getting interested in it, or at least seeing it around. And that's going to be Conquest: The Last Argument of Kings from Parabellum. So the game is just it's a rank and flank fantasy style game, and I definitely have A Song of Ice and Fire to thank for opening the door up to me, or opening up my door, I guess, for those types of games, because before I wasn't really much of a fantasy person, more so fantasy in video gaming than in wargaming, but you know, the bulky block bases never really did a whole lot for me. Ice and Fire changed that and really definitely opened up my mind to new experiences, right? So with this Conquest game, it's so unique, and I do feel like Parabellum is probably like the hardest working wargaming company in the industry right now. When the game first kind of started hitting around, I think it was in 2018, 2019. I'd first or they'd first gotten on my radar when I went to Adepticon, and they had that huge display of like the little lava board with like the little keep in the background and all these dwarves marching up. And you know, back then I thought they were dwarves, and I'm a huge dwarf fan. It's just that you couldn't tell because none of my armies really reflect that because every single time I feel like I've come across a dwarf army in wargaming, it's bumbly or big into gadgets or something. Like the Caradron Overlords just broke me in half. Like I can't stand them. But I just wanted these cool fighty dwarves, kind of like that Tolkien-esque dwarf that, outside the barrel scene, which I still appreciate, but it's still bumbly. But the dwarves in Parabellum's world, the Dwagome, they're super duper cool and they look really neat. And then once I actually got them on the table, I realized this plays the way I want dwarves to play. So I really got interested in those. But then locally, some people got interested and then kind of petered off after a little while. But I think that's like has a lot more to do with like kind of pandemic stuff happening and then people's lives just get in the way of wargaming in general. So I kind of put the game down for a while and didn't really get back into it. Fast forward to this last Gen Con, I did not go, but one of my close friends did. Tyler's been on the channel before and done some Ice and Fire stuff with us in the past. Maybe I have a Warmachine game against him on here, but I'm not 100% sure. But he got really excited to try and get into the game too. Like we had never really like crossed paths on the game before. We just never really talked about it. But he went there, they did a demo, they gave him like a free box and stuff. And he was like, he got back and he was like, oh, so they gave me this stuff and like I think I might order a box from them. And I was like, as soon as he said that, my shopping cart got full online and I bought a whole bunch of Legos. And then I got it here and I was like, okay, Tyler, Friday, I'm gonna get it ready. And then Saturday we played a game. I ended up building up 750 points of dwarves. Like I said, I've never been so charged to play a game in the last like 6 or 7 months. So I was really interested in trying to throw it on the table and just like play it out because I never really got a chance to actually play the game outside of demo. So we kind of bumbled through our first game and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I read the rules some more and looked into more of the armies and stuff. And then I went out to Valhalla Hobby and Games. I can't remember the rest of it, but they're a hobby store in Verona that at least recently in my frame of reference opened up. And the person who owns that was really interested in trying to play some Conquest, and I'm like, oh, I'm fiending for it. So I drove an hour out to Verona and played a game of Conquest there. This time I essentially took like I did some experiments too real early, right? So I took my 750 point list that I played against Tyler and then brought it up to 1,000 just through upgrades to kind of see like, okay, if I add all this, if we add these points and I don't add any more units, what does that look like? Do the upgrades really kind of change the way the game feels? And is it still effective? At what point have you spent enough or have you put enough investment into upgrades that you kind of lose the efficacy of the list a little bit against someone who's a little bit more thickly stacked than you are in terms of stands or whatever. So long story short, I had a blast playing there too. And I've just been building and building, and not just building the models that I have, but building my collection too. And I had I was just like farting around and I was like, whatever, I'll reach out to Parabellum and see what they have to say about, us doing stuff on the channel for it. And because, I throw something like that out all over the place. And sometimes people get back to me, most of the times they don't. But Parabellum got a hold of me and I was like, I'd like to get a second army on the channel just to kind of fart around with in my own so I can do like tutorials and tactics videos or something like that. And they're like, boom, we'll just send you a whole Spires army. So I have like a Spires army on the way and they are making me an affiliate with them and not like, that's that's not driving my desire to kind of make content, from that standpoint. Cause like, I end up getting a discount code to give you guys. And if you go to their store and use it, then there's like a kickback to me. And I'm not really in it for the kickback or anything like that. It's cool that I can maybe help people get a discount if they're having troubles getting them elsewhere. But I'm really, I really enjoy when wargaming companies kind of invest in the social community, especially content creators, and not just focusing on the super high hitter ones. Because like me, I'm a small time YouTube channel. Like I could barely ever, well, not barely ever. I've never even cleared enough to be able to cash a check from Google for the YouTube stuff that we do here. Mostly because I get real excited to do things and then I get unexcited to do things, and that doesn't really work for you well if you're trying to play the YouTube game, which I'm not. It's just it's like a garden almost. Like I'm not trying to feed a community or anything. I'm just trying to, do it to see if I can do it. But at any rate, the big deal here the thing that I want to drive home at is that Conquest is getting me really excited to be making content, and I'm looking forward to trying to play some games on here and go through like my normal stuff. You know, for the people who are coming here to the channel that are Conquest folks only or have never messed around with Warmachine or Ice and Fire, don't know me through those games. I'm an equal part player and hobbyist. So I really like diving into the tactics of things and finding the synergies and figuring out how things work and building lists and coming up with all these different algorithms and strategies that I can kind of apply to the game the way that I want to apply them. I also really enjoy painting and hobbying, whether it's building or converting things. So there will be some painting tutorials on here from time to time, although they take me a little bit longer to make. So sometimes I get a little bit dejected with them and they kind of peter off. But um, again, one of the other things that's really cool about Conquest is their models are like perfect for me because I've often complained about companies that have a beautiful, they have amazing sculpts, right? But the scale is just too small. Malifaux is probably the big offender where like if they just scaled them up a little bit more, I'd be so much happier with the models and be kind of it would get me into the point where I've transitioned from just liking models to liking the game with the models. Like they kind of have to go hand in hand. But with Conquest, the models are on, I believe, a 38mm scale, and that's pretty beefy when you think like in terms of the comparing it to like Ice and Fire is getting a little closer, but looking at like something like Warmachine or Malifaux, like a Malifaux model next to any Conquest like infantry is just dwarf. So speaking of dwarves anyways, like even the ones that are small, like the Dwegom are just tiny guys, or not tiny, but they're supposed to be smaller in stature, but they're just bulky. And it's actually I've had to kind of have a bone to pick with Parabellum because they should have just made their stands just a little bit wider so you could get a little bit more dynamic with the poses. Because like even if you just try and like tuck the Dwegom in, they're still kind of like shoulder to shoulder, and that's a little weird for me. But that I think that's just the difference for me not being from a rank and flank universe and coming into one where like, sometimes just pumping your dudes up is the way you have to do it. But I think I've kind of spun out in my excitement into things that are probably like they're just spidering out into weird tangential things. So anyone who's watching this that's, Conquesty only and you're new to the channel, like don't worry, my other videos are a little bit more focused and have more purpose in them. But this is kind of more serving to just give people an update about where I'm kind of taking things. Eventually, we're going to come back to like Warmachine and Ice and Fire stuff. But right now, I just am so emotionally invested and charged with Conquest that I want to keep going with it. And things are going to probably be mostly that on the channel for a little while. So in terms of like what the trajectory is for maybe a forecast, one of the things I want to do for sure is kind of get an intro to the game out of the way. And that's going to be like the elevator pitch for each faction that's around, maybe a roadmap for what the future looks like for Conquest, along with maybe some of the core mechanics that make Conquest unique, although Parabellum has a YouTube channel that has like the top 5 things in Conquest that make things unique. It might not even be the top 5, it's just 5. But then there's a couple other channels. I can't remember the name of the one that I saw that said there were like 6 unique things about Conquest, but that's definitely something that I want to hammer in on. And then after that, my next super huge goal, well, not huge goal, it's not a big, it's just the thing that I want to do next is I want to do a tactics video on the Dwegom Hold Warriors, much in the same way that I've done things for Ice and Fire in a couple videos, which is probably just 2 for Warmachine, where I kind of hone in on a specific unit and talk about its synergies and uses and ways that you apply it in the game. I know that I've been trying to get Ethan into it a little bit, and we played a game, and it was fun. He enjoyed it, and then he was a little bit dejected until he kind of looked at the word rune, which are kind of, for the Warmachine folks, they have a lot of nuance to them, and they're kind of like an analog to Circle, from Warmachine to Conquest. So the one thing that we did kind of spend a lot of time talking about amongst ourselves was the war chant system. And I think of all, like, there's a lot of complex rules that come with these rank and flank games. There's wheeling and charging and how do you actually maneuver these things on the board and have it make sense. But I think outside of all of that, just the base mechanic, I think the Workhand system is probably one of the most bookkeepy and um, complex systems that the game actually has. So what I'd like to do is try and make a video specifically explaining how that war chant system works because I'm pretty sure I've got it down, but I had to spend, I think it was 2 or 3 hours just consistently reading through the rules on it to make sure that I completely and fully understood what it was that this war chant system was trying to do, because the army rules are really cool. It's just that, the war rune, they got some nuance to them for sure. It's a lot different than just saying that you get two warlords or something like that. So I'm looking forward to making those. I'm getting really invested into the Discord community for Conquest. I've been popping around on there, mostly harassing people with questions because I just need to understand things. But other than that, I'll be poking around all over the place. And if you have any suggestions or things you'd like to see from the channel in terms of Conquest, just leave them in the comments section below. Or if you're excited about something, just talk about it there. The one thing I don't want to try and do is commiserate about, Warmachine kind of being in a weird void right now with the rules. But I guess since I said it, it's probably going to happen anyways. So looking forward to making stuff, and hopefully by the time this video kind of publishes, I have like another one to go with it that's not just me spewing into a camera relentlessly and unstructured about what I'm really excited and looking forward to with the game. I think we've got a lot of cool things coming, and I think as long as Conquest kind of gets my juices flowing, it means that some of that might start transferring over to the other games that I play, and then I can start doing things like that too, or getting back to those games too, because I know that I do want to talk about the Warmachine nerf update and then the cool rule update that happened, but I really don't want to talk about any of it until it's all solidified. I mean, we've already seen Barnabas Zero's change out of the Zero Warlocks. I mean, it's a small change, but a change nonetheless. So like nothing seems to be solidified, and I just don't feel like there's much of a point in me talking about it, because as soon as the update goes live, half the stuff I talk about is probably going to be worthless anyways. So um, sorry for the small toilet bowl there at the end, but I just, like I said, this is kind of just me sitting in front of a camera and talking at it because I'm just so stoked to try and get some Conquest on the channel, and so much that I've just been really like, I even have files and files of pictures and notes and like just so many things. I'm telling you, it's going to be super fun, and I'm looking really forward to making some more content to get out into the Conquest community, because even though there are content creators out there making stuff for it, it is a little bit on the slim side. So I'm looking forward to throwing my hat in there, even though I know that I think it's Play on Tabletop is their name, has like their 36 teaser video that probably got more views than my entire channel in one day. So that's fun. But I'll be looking forward to seeing that from them too, because it's just super great to see any content coming out for this game, because I do believe that Conquest and Parabellum in general, I guess Parabellum the company, really need to be kind of out there in people's minds more, because I don't think people recognize the things that they're doing to try and push their game. They've got their Vanguard thing for all you press gangers who hate that the press gang went away. They've got the Vanguard program, which is very similar to that. They're picking up affiliates left and right to try and keep pushing their game in a social sphere, which a lot of other companies aren't really doing right now. And they also, when they first started, I remember watching after Adepticon, they did like a US tour, almost like a world tour, where the creators are from Greece. I'm fairly certain it's from Greece, and they just kind of toured the entirety of the United States and just stopped at game stores, starting to promote the game and hang out with players that already were playing the game. Like they put their foot pavement and kind of just started hitting the beat and getting the game out that way. So not only are they trying to do things through that social media atmosphere, or have been for the last couple of years, but they're also doing quite a bit in terms of their own personal investment in this game. And whenever you talk to them, they're just so invested in it. And it's really great to see that kind of excitement in the creators, because it definitely gets transferred back to me in terms of things that, when I get excited about stuff. There's nothing worse than watching somebody talk about their game and being all blasé and boring about it. These folks have a real passion for it, and I'm hoping to kind of mirror that passion in the things that I do for Big Top Gaming. So again, leave comments if there's something you're looking forward to, or just want to chat, or talk about anything that's been going on lately. I'm really happy to just kind of be back in the saddle again, so to speak, because all this stuff has been packed up for so long, and I'm just really ready and raring to go here.